For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derek Evans. It's a Monday and another glorious day in America's new golden age.
Yes, it is, Mike. I hope everybody had an awesome weekend. I know I definitely did. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. If you're watching live, whatever platform you're watching in, hop in the comments. I read every single comment. I'll do my very best to give you guys a shout out. Kind of like this. We got Thaddeus already over here kicking off in the X chat, talking about Tom Homan coming out strong today, which was awesome to see as well. We got an awesome show lined up for you guys here today.
Oh, yeah. Before we get into the main stories, I think there's little doubt that President Trump is the trolliest troll that ever trolled. And today we have this over at the White House. White House lawn looks a little different this morning. And they say yard signs don't win elections. So they put up pictures, like election yard sign style pictures of 100 of the illegal aliens that have been arrested so far during Trump's term. The rapists, murderers, child molesters, the worst of the worst. And they put this all on the lawn where the media has to walk in for a media row inside the White House so they all have to pass this and ignore it.
You know, he's not just an awesome troll. He's such a great marketer. I mean, he really is. That's something that I think that a lot of people have underestimated and continue to do, because either we love him because of the things that he does or they hate him because of the things he does. And nobody really stops and thinks about him from a marketing standpoint. He comes from the show business background side of things. And I think that creativity and that style has been drastically underestimated in terms of the effectiveness of President Trump. And so this is just another one of those excellent, amazing marketing tools as far as I'm concerned. And I woke up, I saw that, I just started dying laughing. I absolutely voted for every bit of this.
Well, I think you really nailed it right there. Like, Trump's a showman. He understands how to bypass his critics and get directly to the people. And this is another way to do that, to illustrate, the kind of people that we're removing. And again, highlight, these are the people the left and the media are defending, the worst of the worst that invaded our country and continue to do harm and damage to our citizens. So again, I think it's a great way to bypass their garbled rebranding, basically, of everything that's happened so far. But let's go ahead and jump into some of these other stories, because speaking of desperate rebranding and trying to regain power, we got Chuck Schumer out there right now. Chuck Schumer does not rule out Trump impeachment if Dems take back House in midterms. Really, he ought to be more concerned about his chances of the next election, considering his approval in his district's fallen under a 30% or 32%. I can't remember exactly now, but he's fallen off a cliff. AOC's threatened to run against him. But, this, again, just also shows sheer desperation from the Democrats. The American people want these illegal aliens moved. They want investigations into all the corruption and money laundering that DOJ has found. They're on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue you can think of, and they're worried about impeaching Trump. But, I guess that's the only way they have right now to reach out to their base.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give a couple of shout outs really quick. I'm gonna give a shout out to Shelly P, Chris French. Appreciate you guys, Tim Evans as well. Thank you guys for tuning in here today. I'm gonna take a little bit of a different approach here on the Chuck Schumer thing. I mean, I think we all knew that. I don't think this is any groundbreaking news to most of us who've been paying attention that if the Democrats get back in control, that they're going to impeach President Trump. For what they don't know yet, but they're going to impeach him.
They're going to find something.
Yeah, they're going to find something. And so the fact that he was asked that and could not say no either, it just kind of confirms what we already knew. But to me, this brings the bigger question back to the Republicans in DC right now being the biggest threat to the Trump administration in the second term, because they're over running out the clock. They're missing work more times than they're showing up. They're not getting any of these things done. And this is the matter of importance and the urgency that a lot of us have right now, as to we understand that if the Democrats get control, the last 2 years will be nothing but just some crazy show of attempting to impeach Trump. Nothing at all will get accomplished. I think that the rhinos, the uniparty in DC, I think they're aware of this as well, and I think their game plan is to slow roll everything, only trickle out a little tiny bit of things to keep people somewhat satisfied and happy, and to run out the clock and until the midterms, and then they can pass the blame and say, well, I mean, we lost the midterms. If you guys would have given us more money, or you guys would have voted for us, we could have been doing this. But this is what happens during elections. Elections have consequences. That's how I envision this little game, this little reindeer game taking place behind the scenes right now.
Yeah, I agree, unfortunately, because we've barely seen an effort. I mean, all these executive orders that Trump's passed, they should be immediately getting turned around and then written as changes to U.S. law, and then again push them through the House. And like I've said before, I'm at the point where I'm tired of these games. I'm tired of fearing what the left may do in the future. I think it's time to end the filibuster, push all this stuff through. Or go back to make them, if they want to filibuster something, make them stand on the floor in person 24/7 until we can finally get them to fail to get somebody up there to continue the filibuster, and then we only have to vote on a 51 vote majority, holding things hostage with these fake filibusters and not allowing a floor vote, requiring a 60 vote majority in the Senate for every single piece of legislation that's passed is insane. That's not the intention of the rule to begin with. It's yet another abuse of power from the left. But again, because their cohorts in the media defend them constantly, there's no accountability for the left. But yeah, I think you're right. The plan's to run out the clock, and we've got to do something to put a stop to it.
Absolutely. Shout out to Jen over here in the X chat as well. Really appreciate you for tuning in. And that's exactly what they're doing. The Republicans are going to talk the big game in the media. They will give us a few small wins, and they will pump them up into as if they are the biggest wins we've ever seen in our country's history. But they're going to be small wins compared to the things that President Trump is pushing for. What they will end up giving us in terms of actual law will be small wins, and that way the next president can come in, if it's not or the first time they get a Democrat president, they'll just undo the executive orders that President Trump has done, and they'll just take all that back away from us. That's what I've been saying that on this show and many other places now since basically Trump took office. I think it was pretty evident within the first week or so that that's what we were going to deal with. People got to remember during the first 2 years of the first Trump term is when we had that little weasel Paul Ryan as Speaker of the House, who did the exact same thing in terms of was just undermining President Trump at every turn behind the scenes. And I'm not saying it's Speaker Johnson necessarily because there's such a slim margin, but the Republicans as a whole, and I'm not saying that Speaker Johnson's not doing it, for the record. I don't know, but the Republicans as a whole are 100% undermining President Trump behind the scenes with a lot of this, and that is very frustrating to say the least. Now, the good news is there's no way the Democrats get enough. I don't think they can even take control of the Senate, but even if they did, there's no way they're going to get enough votes to convict President Trump of impeachment. But if we lose the House, we are in some serious trouble, because it'll just be impeachment. They won't do anything else in terms of getting anything accomplished, and it's just going to be complete chaos, and it's going to be a miserable 2 years because the whole time we're going to be thinking what could have been done had the Republicans got off their butt and actually did something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's turn to America's hat because it's election day in Canada. Conservatives conquer Carney? Unfortunately, I don't think so. Unfortunately, Canada has gone even crazier. They've gotten behind Carney, who in a lot of ways is going to be even worse, more of a detriment than Trudeau was to them going forward. But I guess it is what it is. If Canada wants to commit suicide, who are we to stop them?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, shout out to Joe Locke over here in the X chat. Appreciate you for tuning in too, man. I think that today or the election, these election results are going to prove to most of us that there's no way in heck that we want Canada as a whole to become the 51st state of the United States of America. The only way that I support them joining the United States of America is if they're broken up into at least 3 smaller states. And that way we get 2 conservative states and 1 liberal state. And at that point, I would accept their terms of joining us, if you will. But we do not want them as a whole to join. It would just be another California in terms of 2 left-wing extremist senators. Most of the Congress people would be as well. And then the Electoral College votes would be insane for that size as well. So it's not something that we want to promote as a whole. And today's are the election results from this current election coming up are going to prove just that.
Well, yeah, actually, the electoral votes alone is a reason not to do it, because you still, same thing, you're going to have all these people en masse in one part of Canada that are going to vote left, and then that's going to give the Democrats yet another huge advantage for a captured state like California and New York or Chicago, dragging Illinois along with them, where they won't have to win that many states in the country. They would just have to win, provinces of Canada, California, New York, and a few other places to ensure that they keep and maintain the presidency. And again, it's going to make it much more difficult for us to hold the House or the Senate. So, yeah, we don't want Canada. They're on their own. And, it's really unfortunate that opinion polls have shifted so much and that Carney's ahead because I can't pronounce his name, whoever it is, he would have been better for them. But even he's kind of, really pushed back against making Canada the 51st state and everything else. I get like he has to a certain point. But yeah, unfortunately, they're just on a suicidal path and there doesn't appear any saving them.
It's one of those old sayings of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's the thing with Canada, even California, as far as I'm concerned. You can show them the truth, but you can't make them believe it. You can show them the truth as to what the Democrat Party is doing to them and the left wing ideology is doing to them and their local communities, but they will not change. You can't make them change who they're voting for. It is fascinating. You can go interview people standing in line to vote who will complain about the exact left-wing ideology and the Democrat politicians who put them in the position that they're in, and they're miserable. And then they will walk right in the door and vote for the same people all over again. I believe that the liberals in California and Canada are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. and I really do. I believe that they're suffering from Stockholm syndrome. They know it sucks, but they want to believe that it's going to be awesome so bad. And they believe in the little rainbow fairy tale, make believe ideology. And they want to believe it so bad that they can't bring themselves to think of anything else. And so they're just stuck. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of at this point.
Yeah. Well, you're exactly right. They think that if they just communism harder or socialism a little better the next time, they'll find utopia. They're this far off. Ignore the hundreds of millions that are dead and all the collapsed nations. They just didn't do it right the first time, but now Canada's got it, and everything's going to be perfect. We also have this. President Trump now demands Act Blue and Adam Schiff be thrown in jail. Crooked Adam Schiff responds in full panic. We've talked about this for a while when this investigation started, but now it's really getting deeper. We now have 19, I think it is 18 or 19 state attorney generals now also involved, looking in their state for Act Blue violations for smurfing and spoofing donations, taking foreign contributions, laundering them to through U.S. citizens to then disperse money out to Democrats. I think this is going to be big, and apparently they're also planning on demanding that the DNC return all this illicit money, and it's not going to, they'll find other ways to get money out to candidates in this next election cycle, but this is going to eliminate a huge funding source, and a lot of their pros that have been extracting this money and laundering it for years. It's going to make it much more difficult for them to fund races in 2026, especially if they're already starting at a deficit. And right now, they're at record lows for donations. They have support for the Democrats continues to fall, and even their own members are withholding funds and cash because of inaction or just the split within their party right now.
It's not yet, but this could turn into being one of the most consequential actions of President Trump's term here in terms of investigating into the ActBlue scandal, and not only holding these people accountable, as we all want to see. I would love to see Adam Schiff in prison, as well as whoever else is behind orchestrating a lot of these things. But outside of that, even if no one goes to prison, if they can prevent these things from happening again in the future, that in itself would be a huge win, because that is how they're laundering so much money into the DNC. That's how every single campaign that they get behind is so well funded. We know that they're breaking the laws and doing that. And once again, I want to see these people arrested. I want to see them thrown in prison for doing this. But if I had my choice of people can either go to prison and they'll continue doing it, like another group of people will just continue doing it, or nobody goes to prison and they can never do it again, I would choose the latter, because I think that in the long term, that would be the most beneficial to America as a whole and to our country, would be if we could just prevent this from happening ever again. So this is a much bigger story and a much bigger issue than most people are giving it credit for, or at least has the potential to be, I should say, depending on what comes of this.
Agreed. Yeah, shutting down this apparatus once and for all and putting rules in place to ensure it doesn't happen again. Because we got to keep in mind, like a lot of the Smurf donations, where it's either foreign money or it's U.S. contributions that they're having to mask. It's some, leftist billionaire dropping in $100 million, and they're having to then launder that through a few small contributors, make them, like everybody's seen the James O'Keefe videos where, he asked the lady if he's donated to the Democrats. She said, "Oh yeah, I donated to Kamala Harris." It's like, well, did you do it 180,000 times over the last 12 months? No, you didn't. So you didn't donate, the legal maximum last week? No. Yeah. Well, again, there's got to be accountability, and they also need to look into identity theft and fraud. Was there any of that going on? Was there any credit card fraud going in for these donations where they got somebody's number and then without their permission used it? So ending this will financially cripple the Democrats going forward. And if it's going on the Republican side, we've talked about this too, because they are going to look into WinRed and other entities. Yeah, if it's going on there, we got to put the brakes on it too, and then figure out if there's just one or two bad actors, if it's something that slipped through their system, or if there was intention of wrongdoing. I have no doubt on the ActBlue side there's intention of wrongdoing, but we're also hearing there's some of this that went on through WinRed, and if that's the case, again, arrest whoever it is, or if it's some other type of slip up, then it needs to be fixed and the money needs to be returned.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Even if the Republicans are doing it, it needs to be stopped, need to be held accountable as well. And I agree with you. At the very least, I think that we have enough information on the ActBlue side of things to enough circumstantial evidence, I should say, to point that in the direction of this is a wide scale, very well known, very well oiled money laundering operation. I would even argue that there's potential racketeering and all these sorts of things going on here through this, because you don't do it at the scale that it seems that they're doing it with just one or two bad actors. Another thing with this, which is interesting, and I know this from just the candidate side of things, is so when you donate to a candidate through WinRed or ActBlue or anything like that, the Republican Party, if it's WinRed, or the Democrat Party, if it's ActBlue, they get your information and they can see who you donated to. Well, the more people you donate to, then the more lists that you're going to be on in the future. So I hear people complaining all the time, like, dude, I'm constantly getting requests from people to donate. Well, I almost wonder if somebody's done this to them. They donated to one person, their information's in there, and then somebody's kind of donated in their name to multiple different candidates, because the more candidates that you donate to, then the more donor lists that you're going to show up on, because they're like, well, this person donates to every Republican. You need to go hit them up. Whereas if you are only on one or two lists, they might throw a few at you to see if they can catch your attention, and then you don't, and then you just fizzle out of that prospecting list. But does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And actually, now that you say it, I really see that happening even in this last election cycle, because usually I'll do small contributions to different conservative candidates all over the country, $50 here or there, or maybe I'll buy a t-shirt or whatever. But this last year, I kind of held off on doing that until just maybe a month out from the election, maybe a little longer. And then I started making some other contributions to candidates besides President Trump and a few others I was going to back. Then that's when my cell phone really started blowing up with all these stupid text messages, all from WinRed, about candidates a lot of times I never even heard of. Somebody, a non-consequential race in wherever, where it was where the Republicans already up 10 points. Stuff like that. Just, so-and-so needs just $50 from you to get over the finish line. And I get how that works too, especially pulling up as we get closer and closer to the election. People are more desperate, especially when you have the mainstream media pretending somehow Kamala Harris is going to win. There's going to be a sweep in the House. It's probably effective money raising strategy, but I don't think it's a really good thing for them to continue going forward, because I know it turns off a lot of people, a lot of donors like me. Like, I started blocking their text messages at some point because most of it was just nonsense garbage, and I'd already made the donations I was willing to make. Guys, we do have to take a quick break here from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with even more.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs on X American News is by supporting our sponsors. Right now, you can go to MyPillow or mystore.com, use code INSURRECTION. You're going to get the deepest discounts, and you're going to be supporting a great patriot, Mike Lindell, on his fight for free and fair elections, and his fight for to take over, to beat Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, and be the governor of Minnesota. Love to see it. Again, go to mystore.com and use code INSURRECTION. You'll be supporting us, supporting Mike Lindell, and helping to throw Tampon Tim out of office. We also have this. Chinese sellers in U.S. markets begin hiking prices. And some of these are pretty drastic, like even more than the tariffs. But, you have 100. What did Trump end up with the tariff on China at? Because I know it was 145 or 185, and then it went down, then it went down again. I'm not even sure anymore. But with
%.
Yeah, that's probably where it should be. But yeah, I saw this over the weekend, people posting about a lot of these direct from China, Temu and whatever else. They're a lot of items on there are suddenly doubling in price because it doesn't matter if they use cheap slave labor to make them now when they're getting tariffed when they hit the U.S. border. As soon as packages are coming in, and I've seen some people on the left already complaining that they're little like mail order direct packages from China, from off eBay and whatever else. Even some of those are getting grabbed and snagged for tariffs for like big ticket items. And but hey, that's what you get when you screw over the American people, screw over workers here, and try to buy cheap from China.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what happens. And that's why we got to get back to making things in America and buying things that are American made, or pay the tariff. I mean, people are complaining about the tariffs. There's a way around that by American-made products. I mean, that's as simple as that. It's leveling the playing field. I think that we're already seeing a ton of investments coming back. I mean, trillions of dollars of commitments and investments back into the American economy. And this is going to allow us to build our economy on a foundation that is real. Like I truly feel that right now, most of the things that are propping up our economy is kind of fake in terms of it's not stabilized. It's not, we're so dependent on outside forces outside of our country. Whereas if we start building those things here, it is a solid foundation that will pay dividends for generations moving forward in our country.
Yeah, well, it's bringing the jobs home and everything else. And to your point, we're already starting to see some of this. I think it's a Honda plants in Indiana are, and sorry if I've got the wrong auto manufacturer, but there's a number of them that are already shifting jobs from Canada back to the U.S., and they're already hiring for those positions. The big three automakers in Detroit are already same thing. They're also hiring in all their plants as they move production from Canada and Mexico back to the U.S. And this is something that we will continue to see. There's going to be a slow string of victories over the next probably 2 years with this over $5 trillion in investment in new jobs in the United States taking hold, the construction starting, and then the plants and warehouses, factories, all starting to get staffed with U.S. employees for good paying jobs. And this is the economic future that President Trump promised us. And again, this is going to cripple China going forward. They're saying mass panic over there. Xi Jinping's been on a string of firings, eliminations, disappearings, whatever you want to call them over there in both their military and government sectors. There's rumors floating around that he may be pulled out of office due to lack of confidence. I don't know if that's going to happen. The guy's a dictator. But yeah, China is not in a good position. Not to mention, I have trouble believing that President Trump would lie about having talks and negotiations with China to say that they were talking to him about this if they weren't. But that's the official stance of the U.S. government, or sorry, the Chinese government, the CCP. They're saying, oh, no negotiations are taking place. They're pretending to take a stand, but I doubt they are behind the scenes. I'm sure we know they're panicking.
Yeah, and the thing is, these are good paying jobs. That's what I want to point out here as well. You know what I mean? These are good paying jobs. These are jobs that people can raise a family on. Jobs that don't require you to go $100,000 in debt for some stupid piece of paper from a liberal arts college saying that you can get the job. These are jobs that you can graduate high school. You can step straight into there. You can start a family. You can raise a family. You can buy some land. You can achieve the American dream with a lot of these jobs, and that is the cool thing about it to me. In terms of what they're doing, they're really an entire generation missed out on that opportunity. My entire generation, it did not matter. There's people who are, just were in school that were really good welders and carpenters and stuff, and they were maybe average students in other areas because that's wasn't something that interested most of us.
Yeah.
And we were all told that you have to go to college. You cannot even, and it's like, well, I don't want to do that. And we were told you will not even be able to flip burgers at McDonald's if you don't have a college. The college degree is the new high school degree. That's what we were all told. And it's unfortunate that our generation was the guinea pigs on that, but it is what it is in that regard. But that was the exact messaging that they told so many of us in our generation, and while they were shipping these jobs to other countries, mind you, at the same time. And so I think that's part of the reason that we had such a major drug epidemic during that roughly 15-year span. Probably there it was probably the peak of the drug epidemic, with the pills and the heroin, all that stuff that was really bad. And the reason I think that too is it kind of builds and compounds on each other is when you ship these jobs out of there, you put people in debt, whether they even go to college or not. You took hope away from so many people. There were so many people who was like, well, what is the point of life? I can't get a job because the jobs were shipped off to other countries. I can't get a job to support my family. What is the incentive to do X, Y, and Z? And I'm not making excuses for anybody. But I've watched a lot of people who I went to school with who were good people, not bad people by any means, who fell into that trap, and some of them are dead now, unfortunately, through that whole experience. But looking back on everything, I think a lot of it had to do, like, if those guys, most of them were guys that I lost in my class anyways, or in my age group, if they could have stepped straight into a job in the coal mines or building, cars for one of these car manufacturers and step straight into a job making 50, 60, $70,000 a year, they could go out and buy their toys and they probably would have been less likely. I'm sure some of them still would have done it, but those numbers would not have been the same in terms of some of them people would not have went down that path. And so I think it's a compounding thing. And President Trump is bringing hope back to so many areas that have had that taken away from them.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right, because around here where I live, like in the early 2000s when I was graduated high school, there's a lot of people that walked into jobs at working with a GM or Honda or other auto manufacturers that were here in our area, but within the next couple years, those jobs all disappeared. So they thought they were on a path. Maybe that's where their father had worked, making $100,000 a year after working there for 20 years. They have got a good job doing. I know a couple people that were at Truck and Bus that were doing like hands-on, basically fixing problems once a vehicle came off the line, making good money, especially in 2003, 2004, making in the door, making $30 an hour, could really build a life for themselves. And then within a few years, that was gone, and there was no other opportunity. They all took this giant slide backwards. That's also around here, at least, what caused a lot of people to lose houses, lose other things, because they'd made an investment in their future, and suddenly the job to support it is gone, and there aren't other replacement opportunities in the area. So they either have to move or settle for a lower standard of living, a lower quality life. And nobody wants to do that, to take steps backwards. But I mean, that's going to be the other big upside with this, I think, as the midterms get here, despite how pathetic Congress is and the fact that they're not getting anything done. And they're not putting any of President Trump's executive orders into law. Things are going to be looking really good in a year and a half when we're getting close to the midterm races. That the economy is going to be booming again. A lot of these other problems we're seeing right now are going to be resolved, and America's already going to be on a better path. But we still need Congress to act. Otherwise, like you said, as soon as there's a Democrat president again, it's all going to get taken away, and we're going to go back to the tyranny from before, because it was all executive orders. Just like Trump was able to undo so much of what Biden and Obama did, that they're going to be able to just, with the stroke of a pen, eliminate a lot of this progress that America's made in the last 4 years.
Yeah, and really quick shout out to Bob over here in the X chat, as well as Duval Drunks. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Shelly P says, make trade schools great again. I agree with that 100%. Actually, all the billions of dollars that were for some reason being sent to private institutions like Harvard and Yale and those places, Columbia, take that money and invest it into trade schools if you want to make that more acceptable and more mainstream once again, because that's what we need. Another thing on this same subject here, and we don't get to talk about this a whole lot, but the left is constantly whining around, complaining, saying that we're separating families when we do deportations, which we're not, but let's just, okay, well, that's what they say.
We'll pretend.
We want to know what else. When they shipped these jobs out of these communities, they separated families. You know what? A lot of these areas were areas where for generations, the same families had lived in those areas, not just in West Virginia, but I mean, throughout Ohio and everything as well, to where, multiple generations had lived in Dayton and worked in these factories and lived there around each other. And when you took that away, you dispersed families. And looking back, I'm really thinking this through for the first time. I almost wonder if that was part of the reason they did that, because there was a direct attack on the nuclear family and the family structure, if you will, during that same time. And there was nothing that was more devastating to the nuclear family, in Appalachia, Midwestern farmland, all that. I feel like we have a lot of similar values, flyover country, if you will, other than the major cities. These are areas where people go to Mama and Papa's house, your grandparents' house on the weekends for no reason other than just to show up, and all your cousins are there, sort of thing. Or you go to a youth sporting event, and your cousins are all on the same team, or they're playing against each other. And when they took these jobs and shipped them out, it forced families to disperse, to go find and seek work to support their immediate family. And so it really broke up the extended family structure that had lasted for generations in so many pockets of this country. I watched it happen firsthand right here in West Virginia, in the coal fields of West Virginia, as they shut down the coal industry and the coal mines. where and it's really really sad, and I'm sure the same thing happened in these areas, like I said, where a lot of the car manufacturing was split up as well. Make no mistake of how much of an impact that actually has on society when you take a generational thing like that and break it apart. Just like, I mean, that's pretty devastating when you really think about it.
Yeah, well, and you're exactly right. And maybe, I guess I hadn't thought about this either or articulated it like you just did, but that's exactly what we saw is, like in my neighborhood, our next door neighbor was an engineer for GM when they finally shut everything down, just to get work. And this is a younger guy to support a family. He was recently married. They just had a couple kids and, instead had to move to Texas to get work in his field, had to leave the state. His whole extended family was here. A lot of his brothers and sisters, I think his father had all worked for General Motors. That, this was the draw that brought them here originally. This is what allowed them to lift their family, out of poverty and create a better life for themselves. And then it's gone. And luckily him as an engineer, it was easier for him to go. 'Cause I can't remember if he stayed with the company or went to a different company in different automotive manufacturer. But at least he was able to do that. But he didn't want to leave the state. And there's a lot of other people like that that I know that friends or family, same thing. They had to leave because that's where the jobs were, and they weren't around here anymore. It's part of why Dayton is a dying city because big industries had left. These good paying jobs that allowed you to support your family left. Now they're starting to return when that's been kind of a factor for the last few years, but it started during Trump's first term. That's when we started seeing good manufacturing come back to the Dayton area. Then we went on a 4-year hiatus, and now all of a sudden you see construction again. You're seeing job openings at factories all over the place. That this is going to be the future again. It's going to be turned into a manufacturing powerhouse. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story then, though. So we got a lot under this one. It's happening. U.S. Postal Service, police, and IRS agents seen assisting DEA, ICE, and FBI in Colorado nightclub takedown where 114 illegals were arrested. And so this actually happened. If you guys caught our new program over the weekend, Big Timber Lodge, this actually took place just a few miles from where Nick Rogers lives. So he was freaking out all weekend because he's also pretty close to where they caught the 180,000 rounds of ammunition being hauled into Colorado. From, I think, Wyoming, by another group of illegal aliens that may or may not be connected to Tren de Agua.
Absolutely. Well, shout out to Kelly Song over here in the Rumble chat. Appreciate you for tuning in as well. And and the thing is, this whole thing was illegal. I mean, I want people to understand that this was not a legal nightclub where there were illegals caught inside of there. Okay, this whole thing is illegal. Even if there was not a single illegal alien in the nightclub, the nightclub itself, everything about it was illegal. I don't know the exact details of that in terms of, not having, I'm sure they didn't have permits, we're not paying taxes, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever is required to operate a business and a nightclub in the state of Colorado and in the United States of America. They were not following any of those sorts of laws. And then in addition to that, as you pointed out, there were over 100 illegals who were caught inside there when they did the raid to be deported. And then the troubling thing that I found was that there were over a dozen active duty military members that were there as well. And some of them were working as security. Now, I don't know how everything was set up. I guess it's possible that this thing was not hidden. It's like everybody knew it was there. So I guess it's possible that as a citizen, you could walk into there and not fully understand that everything about this whole thing is illegal right now. It looks like a nightclub, smells like a nightclub, works as a nightclub. It's bright lights everywhere. It's not like you went through an underground passage to get there. You know what I mean? Like everybody knows it's there. So like I would give those people a pass. It's very possible that they didn't know. But the people working security, I feel like you would almost have to know that something was amiss.
Yeah, I would think so.
But you would feel like you would, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, yeah, like the average person walking through the front door is not going to know that this place doesn't have a proper liquor permit, or, you know, they weren't fire inspected for capacity. It's, you know, this is the new hot club wherever you live. Most people are just going to go there. I think you're right about that. But yeah, I feel like this the U.S. military members that were caught there should have known better that when they were being hired as security, paid cash, because again, you're obviously not going to be getting a W-2 paycheck or even a I-9 at the illegal nightclub. They're just going to pay you cash. You know, maybe they asked questions, maybe they didn't, but I feel like they should have been able to figure something out. But just wait, this is going to get turned around by our media that this won't be an illegal underground nightclub. This is going to be a speakeasy. That this was what they had to do on the weekends because of evil Donald Trump and all the ICE agents. That they just had to have somewhere of their own for stress relief, and now it's our fault for taking them down and taking this away from these poor future Americans that just want a better life for themselves, and, you know, cocaine and machine guns, which were also found at this bust. But don't talk about that.
I'm glad you said that, because now I immediately have been hit with my white guilt, my American guilt. I take back everything I said. You know, it's a shame that we forced these people to invade our country illegally. It's a shame that we forced them to break additional laws after they were here. It's a shame that we forced them to create an illegal nightclub of some sort and go over here. And in addition to everything else, start a business and not even pay taxes back into the country.
We're also we're not just killing them, we're killing their entrepreneurial spirit.
The American dream, we're taking it away from them. How dare us?
It's all our fault, guys. Well, while we contemplate our inhumanity, we're going to take another quick break, hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with even more.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. But I'm sure, or at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs on X American News by supporting our sponsors. Go to lutfstudio.com right now. And later this week, Annie will have some new pieces up on the store. I went down there this weekend, helped her put together a number of new pieces of art. They're all going to be listed by the end of the week, hopefully. There's going to be some beautiful coasters, a lot of new crosses, and a number of other pieces, unique, original, one-of-a-kind, handmade, that'll be up on there for you to get for future family heirlooms to pass down to future generations. Again, lutfstudios.com, or studio.com, not studios, studio. All right, guys, I think we're going to have to lightning round through a few of these to get to everything we need to cover. Man who swiped DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's handbag is illegal immigrant, professional thief. Man, talk about picking the wrong crime to commit. It wasn't just this guy. It was him and another one are now on the deportation list after getting arrested. But, man, talk about grabbing the wrong handbag.
Did he, though? How do we know that he did not target her specifically and hoping that there was some information? And I don't trust these people in any way, shape, or form. If you're going to illegally invade our country, you are an enemy to our country as far as I'm concerned. I don't care if you're a child. I don't care if you're an old woman. I don't care if you're a middle-aged man. I don't care. If you invade our country illegally, you are, historically speaking, the only reason people invade other countries are to spy or to conduct operations of some sort. So, I mean, I know that we're all saying he picked the wrong one, but maybe he picked that for a specific reason and was willing to accept some of the consequences that came from that, given the, I'm just saying, I think
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we at least have to consider that as a possibility at this point, I think.
Yeah, because it is pretty brazen to steal a purse from the DHS chief. So yeah, maybe they thought there'd be information in there that they could gain access to, see where future raids were planned, or blackmail, or who knows what else. So yeah, we do need to consider that, and hopefully the DOJ is looking at those possibilities too. Well, get ready for some more injunctions from the judicial insurrection, because the Trump DOJ clears federal authorities to arrest Tren de Agua gang members without warrants. So again, I think this is what needs to happen. President Trump said over the weekend, we can't possibly have jury trials for every illegal alien in our country. We got to start paving the way for rapid deportations, especially when it comes to criminals in gangs that have already been declared terrorists. These people, they all need to be removed, but specifically, we need to cut through as many barriers as humanly possible to extradite this process and remove the criminal gang members that are here, and potential military members too.
All right, I think this is a easy way of explaining how I feel about this, and I don't know how anybody could disagree with this. If you had due process coming into the country, and I don't mean some fake judge just saying 100,000 of you can be released. I mean, you as an individual had due process coming into the country. You're here on a student visa, work visa, you're here on a green card, whatever. Then you deserve due process to be deported. I think that would be a fair statement. People who illegally invaded our country and came here just across the border on their own, you did not have due process coming in. Therefore, I cannot believe that you have the audacity to demand due process when we go to deport you back out of our country. You can leave the same way you came. No paperwork, no handshake, no form of any process whatsoever. I would love to see them go to the top of the wall and grab him right by the back of the britches and toss him right over the other side, the same way that they used to do Carlton on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's what I want to see happen to them. Just toss them right on out of the country, and that's their due process. But that's how I feel about it. Like I said, I do feel that people who came here legally and properly, obviously that they're in a different boat as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's the way the law is looking at this as well. I mean, because the Constitution is even granted and afforded to those people who are here in our country legally. But if you come to our country illegally, you don't have due process. You don't have constitutional protections. You don't have any of these sorts of things. The only process you have is to get out now while you can on your own and get back in line to try to come here the right way, or there's going to be severe consequences to pay. And that's just all there is to it.
Yeah, and this is something else that we really need to tackle. So what is due process? That due process does not always mean a jury trial. I agree with you that I think if somebody's here on a student visa or whatever, they should be at least entitled to a hearing. But again, it doesn't mean a jury trial. If it can be established that they violated laws, violated the terms of their visa or the reasons to be here, or they violated other U.S. laws, that we don't necessarily need a jury trial. A judge can bang their gavel and make the decision that they're out of the country, that we're taking them back to wherever, that they're not a good fit for the U.S., or they haven't lived up to their obligations as a student or a worker or whatever else. As far as everybody else goes, dual process during the Obama administration for the I can't remember if it was 8 or 10 million illegal aliens that he deported during his terms in office. Due process for many of them was literally same thing. No jury trial, no anything, that you went in front of a judge. They determined that you broke the law, that you were here illegally, bang the gavel, you're sent back out of the country. And we can do that. I agree. I think that really what we need are mass deportations, and just to figure out if they're a U.S. citizen or not, how they violated the law. Many of them are already on record as asylum seekers or whatever else, so this should be very easy to determine, and then push them on out of the country. But right now you have the media and Democrats trying to create the impression that all 30 million of these people are entitled to jury trials, and that's what due process is. It isn't, and don't believe the lie.
Well, jury trials for the illegals is impossible, because you can't have a jury of your peers when
That's
you are
right.
here illegally. I mean, literally, it's impossible to do that, because there is no illegals are not allowed to sit on jury duty either, for the record, as a juror. So there's no jury of their peers to have if they wanted to have a thing in terms a jury trial. In terms of the due process, every single illegal has already had due process, as far as I'm concerned. As you pointed out, due process does not mean you have a right to a jury trial or any of those sorts of things, especially as an illegal. Due process has many different forms. Due process happened during the 2024 November election, when the American people, when President Trump said, if you elect me, I'm going to deport every single illegal out of this country. And the American people stood up and voted for President Trump, many on the sole purpose of deporting every single illegal out of this country. They've already had their due process because the American people have already spoken and said, get out of our country.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are really truly understanding just the position that we're in as a country right now with all these illegals. This is not sustainable to continue down the path that we've been.
No.
And we have to ramp up the deportations. I love that what we've done so far, and President Trump has said this, Tom Homan has said this, we have to ramp it up. We need to 10x the amount of numbers that we're doing. I mean, I want it. I don't care if it seems like an active war zone in our country for the next year, because there's Black Hawk helicopters landing in people's yards and going in and tackling people and throwing them on there and taking them back across. I don't care at this point. Get it done, and get it done now.
Agreed. Oh, I'm going to grab these next two together. So Trump admin to create list of sanctuary states, cities, and target services for illegal aliens. Trump admin tells states to stop funding food stamps for illegal aliens. So again, this is something we've talked about numerous times, that you want to make people self-deport and cut off their lifelines here. End all the Social Security payments, Medicare, Medicaid, all the welfare programs that should only be applicable to U.S. citizens. And I mean that across the board, even lawful permanent residents. Like I've said before, if it's emergency disaster relief, you happen to live in the area that a hurricane hit and you're here legally, then, I think you should be entitled to the same immediate relief as everybody else. You can go to the FEMA shelters, get food and water, medical, whatever. If you're here lawfully, if you're here as a lawful permanent resident, you're following the rules, then you're doing the same thing as everybody else. It's not your fault the storm came. We shouldn't screw over people just to screw them over, especially people that are trying to do the right thing and become citizens. If they're on the path and doing things correctly, then stuff for emergencies should not be withheld. If you can't make it on your own, though, under normal circumstances, require welfare benefits, then you can't be a U.S. citizen. But I don't think it's fair to take other things away that we would, give anybody else something that's no fault of their own.
Yeah, I agree. If they're here legally, I agree 100%. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying illegal. I was like, no, if they're here illegally, I don't care if they lost everything in a hurricane or not. They're not entitled to anything other than getting the F out of
exactly. Then we should scoop them up at the shelters and deport them if they come in for help. But if you're a lawful permanent resident, I think emergency disaster relief, that you should be entitled to that just like anybody else. That's not fair. It's not your fault. And if you're trying to do the right thing anyway. But this is a great way, again, to get people to self-deport. We take away these lifelines and report people who are illegal, and then you can send ICE there to scoop them up and remove them immediately. And that's exactly what we should start putting into practice.
Really quick, I want to give a shout out to Miss American Culture over here. Smash as well in the X chat. Smash, earlier when we were talking about the jury of the peers, I said, the illegals can't have a jury of their peers. Smash said we should let them have a jury of their peers and then arrest the jury.
Yeah, even better. Oh my, see, this is the kind of, we need clever things like that. Like, I always love hearing those, like when police set up stuff like that and then they arrest, 100. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we need. Oh yeah, we need to, okay, we got to start having trials. We need some illegal aliens to sign up for jury duty, come down, do that, and then they all just disappear. We can solve multiple problems at once.
It'd be awesome. We're really quick. Shout out to Money 465 and Charles over here in the Getter chat. And then we got the Big Timber Lodge over here in the X American News X chat. Appreciate you guys for all of you for tuning in today.
Yeah, and give Big Timber Lodge a follow out there. We got another good one. Again, this is something that should have happened a long time ago. Exclusive. Trump to sign executive order ensuring truckers speak English. Like we were talking about this before the show. Like, this really should be a bare minimum requirement. If you're going to drive a big rig through the country, a several 100,000-pound weapon down our highways, you should be able to at least read the road signs, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing, man, is this is putting everybody else at risk. If there's a thing that says, 1 lane road ahead, road closed, right lane closed, road work, whatever, and these people can't read those signs, and it's true that this happens. They're putting other people's lives at risk in the process of doing this, and not to mention, taking jobs from Americans as well. It should be a requirement to be able to. I mean, we need to. While Republicans have control right now, another thing that they needed to go ahead and do is just go ahead and officially declare English as the official language of the United States of America. I think that it should be, and for the record, I hope President Trump deports so many people I never have to push one to speak English again. That would be awesome. But in this is a huge thing. I think Arkansas has already done this at the state level. There's a few other states that have done it, but as you pointed out off air earlier, California and a couple other states have went so far left on this that they're literally pulling people over who don't speak any English at all, can't read or speak English, and they're driving, as you said, huge vehicles on our roadways, putting other people at risk. This is insane that this has gotten to this point.
Yeah, in California, it's even worse. So, like, if you're an illegal alien driving a semi, or somebody that is a driver from Mexico, because obviously there's some foreign freight that comes in and out of the country, they don't have the same requirements for their vehicles. So they've had a huge issue in California specifically with the drivers coming up from Mexico, their tires flying apart on the highway, causing crashes, other things, or just breakdowns and whatever in general, even for port passes. So U.S. truck drivers, I think, and I may have this wrong, I think it's their vehicle has to be within 2 years old, it might be 5 years old, for them to get a port pass, and they have a number of other inspection requirements that are ongoing. Well, if you're a foreign national picking up at the U.S. port to bring something back to Mexico, no requirements. You can come up here with your broken vehicle, break down on the highway, cause a wreck, whatever else. There's no inspection requirements, no anything. So, again, why are we propping up illegal aliens over American citizens and over the safety of Americans on our roads and highways?
And that's exactly what it comes down to is it's putting our people at risk, and we just can't allow this to happen. I mean, it's just that, to me, it's common sense. I just can't even believe anybody would be opposed to this. Even the people who are like these left-wing extremists who love, the illegals coming into our country. Like, surely to God, you could at least agree that while they are here, we can disagree whether they should be here or not. Okay. But surely to goodness, we can agree that while they're here, if they want to drive a major, I'm not even saying a regular car right now, I'm saying a commercial semi truck down the road, that they should at the very minimum be able to read and speak English. That should be a given at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When it comes to commercial vehicles, absolutely. I guess if you're driving your junker over from Mexico and it's falling apart, you probably shouldn't be allowed on the roads, on our roads either. But we can address that later. All right. Wisconsin judge refuses to hold court over arrest of Hannah Dugan for shielding illegal immigrants from ICE. So this moonbat's out there right now being held up as a hero because she's pretending she needs direction. She needs guidance on what to do because she doesn't want to, hold a hearing for an illegal alien, have them get scooped up by ICE, and then sent off to a concentration camp, since that's, they paint these people as victims, no matter how evident it is that they are not victims, that the American people are the victim in this situation.
Well, I'll say this. We can make this really simple. The other judge needs a cellmate. We can just arrest you too and throw you in there too for refusing to do this. It doesn't really matter to me at this point. I know we're almost out of time. So on the same note, I wanted to say Ben Bergquam, a good friend of ours, over the weekend had said that, I'm trying to remember the quote exactly, but said that he has some sources inside the Trump administration who have indicated to him that the arrest of these two judges that just occurred at the end of last week are just the beginning, and there's going to be more arrests to come. And so that got me really, really excited, to say the least, of knowing that was there, because I trust Ben, and I have no doubt that somebody in a pretty good position absolutely told him that.
Oh yeah, actually, let's play the video real quick, then we'll wrap.
Okay.
What did you think when you heard these stories of these two judges, with all of the victims you've talked to of illegal alien activity, with all the work the Border Patrol does on the border? What goes through your mind?
Well, thank God it's about time. And I've got sources inside the administration we're talking to that say this is just the beginning. There's going to be many more. So that is a a breath of fresh air for the American people. These are the guys that have been aiding and abetting. And think about this, Grant. These are the judges that were dismissing without prejudice all of the immigration cases, over 1 million in 1 year. They dismissed these illegal aliens basically to let them go into our country scot-free and eventually get citizenship. The biggest question I have is to find out how many of them not just are harboring, not just are protecting. They think that they're going to get away with it. They think they might get a slap on the wrist. But how many of them are directly tied to the cartels or tied to some other foreign entity that's been paying them? That's where we really need to send the investigations. And I really hope Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and the rest of them are doing that. I have no doubt, again, in hearing some of what I'm hearing in the back channels, that more is coming. And again, just speaking on behalf of the American people, it's about time.
He's got that right. It is about time.
Yep.
Well, and unfortunately, we're almost out of time. So, guys, I want to thank you again for joining us today. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to